Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. This is my dad, Ted.
Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Knightsky. Over the course of the past few weeks, I have had a lot of inquiries around coaching. Not a sport, but each other. Leadership coaching. A lot of questions about personal endurance, perseverance, how to truly buffalo through different pieces. What is leadership in the context of crisis and other things that are unpredictable or uncontrollable? And it got me thinking over and over and over again about one of the best conversations I have ever had with anyone. When I had a conversation with Greg Harden. Now, Greg is an author and a fitness coach, and unfortunately he's gone. He passed away a couple of years ago, but his book, his ideas, and his advice was forever preserved on a Smart Thinking podcast. And as different people were asking me questions about how to endure through change that was unpredictable or how to control things they didn't know where they're coming from or why they're happening, I just kept hearing Greg Harden's voice. So what I wanted to do for us this week is to replay for you and put back out on the podcast my conversation with Greg Harden. I edited it up a little bit differently so that it was a new perspective for you to listen to. But in the end, this conversation with Greg was probably one of the most fulfilling conversations I've ever had with another person, where I really felt like it was almost a divinely inspired conversation. It was at a moment in my own personal life where I needed to have someone like him step in there. But I have listened to this at least once every 2 months for the last 2 years, and I keep finding new nuggets every time I re-listen to this wonderful conversation. And I hope that you too, as you listen, find different ways to persevere through this wonderful and weird thing we call life. So welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Knightsky, and I am joined today by the author of the book, Stay Sane in an Insane World, Greg Harden, coming to me from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and very, very excited that he's here to join us today. So Greg, welcome to the podcast.
Well, Ted, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm eager.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wore my blue and gold for you, which is a little struggle being a Badger, but I did own it and I was appreciative of it.
Well, we really appreciate you, and the Big Ten rules.
It does. It does. So Greg, before we get into the book, tell me a little bit about your formation from kind of childhood to, your professional adult life. You touch on it in the book, but really, like, where'd you go to elementary school? Where'd you grow up? Who were some key players in your life that really influenced you?
Well, to be real clear, I am proud to be from Detroit City, and the public school system in Detroit, while it could be improved like every school in the world, I had a great education and I was surrounded by amazing teachers. Mr. Desjardins was the French teacher, and there were so many. Mr. Howard was an unbelievable character in my life who showed me that he expected more from me than I was willing to demonstrate. That Desjardins gave me a D in a class. And I'm saying, you must be out of your mind. He said, if you think you're just going to skate through my class, and I know how smart you are, you're confused. Well, fortunately, it was not at that time you would have 3 grades in that one semester. So he started me off with a D, and I came through because not only I couldn't take another D home, he expected it, and he believed in me, and he trusted me, and he pushed me like no other teacher had ever done before. Because I was skating. Because school was easy. And so those were 2 of the people. Mr. Howard was just, this is elementary school. How do you remember your elementary school when you're old as I am? But he was an amazing teacher. And then he continued to be that influence over time with people who I was eager to learn from. And the guy who turned my whole life around was Dr. Howard Brapson, who was the professor in social work, who was a community leader. and I wasn't in the school of social work, but somehow I ended up being able to be befriended by Howard Brabson, who worked with all these kids in the community. And he started recruiting me into social work. And I would laugh so hard. Social work, me? You must be out of your mind. I don't want to be the social police. And I clearly didn't know what I was talking about. He schooled me and recruited me and changed my whole outlook on life and what I wanted to pursue.
I think one of the great things that you and a lot of people I know in the world of leadership have in common is that we ran into someone who said, I have higher expectations for you.
Absolutely. It's crucial. I mean, because you'll have kids who are doing okay, but there's how they see themselves and how they treat themselves and how they talk to themselves has to be challenged. And so while they think you're talking to them to help them in their sport, you're trying to get them to understand that you will be a better athlete if you become a better person.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. And so my expectations are that you're more than Tom Brady, you're more than a football player. Desmond, Michael, I know you're an Olympian, but what else can you do?
Right.
And if you're rich and powerful and famous, what would you do with power and influence? I mean, that's what Ted would want me to ask you.
Yeah. Well, and Greg, that's something, you read your book and you so casually point out the fact that these are mortals. These are just human beings. And what I love about, what I learned most about your book was that you never took advantage of that vulnerability. Instead, you supercharged it for these individual young men and women that you were their mental fitness coach, that you supported. And that, as I read the book, I thought to myself, what wonderful opportunities. And Greg, you just rattled off like 3 incredible people. For those of you who don't know, Greg, go into your professional career that advances you up into, being at the University of Michigan.
Well, it's miracles. God has a sense of humor, and God was entertained by my inability to shut up and to talk to people and to try to coach and push people to excellence. And so working in the field of social work and as a clinical therapist and working with alcoholics and addicts and working with, the downtrodden and all kinds of folks, I ended up working with medical students, engineers, and athletes and saw them pretty much as similar, which shocked the world and confused everybody. I ended up having a great reputation because of the work I've done with some superior athletes that are household names. But my work and what I did with those athletes came from working with medical students and engineers who, in a personal development model that I introduced into a college setting that I created working with alcoholics and addicts.
Yeah.
Whoa, talk about transition and seeing people as people. Because what I did in working with alcoholics and addicts was treat them like they were people instead of alcoholics and addicts. What I did with medical students, I was not overwhelmed by the fact that they were going to medical school. By working with engineers, who you couldn't make one mistake without them identifying it. And so it was fun. But I also was invited to work with athletes. And what I was able to do was transfer the technology and try to convince athletes that they were more than athletes. Engineers, that you're more than an engineer. You're isolated and you're in a world of your own, and the pressure and expectations on this future doctor is outstanding. But what kind of person are you? How do you deal with stress? How do you deal with your own emotions? Hey, I tell you what, why don't you become the world's greatest expert on one subject? You.
I love that. And when you talk about it in your text and just, watching a bunch of YouTube videos about you as well, when you say, you should become the world's greatest expert on you, tell me how that translates into you also becoming the world's greatest advocate for you.
Well, what you discover is that everyone has heard the phrase, I want to be the very best version of myself. Mm-hmm. This year I'm committed. Well, how do you do that? Well, you might have to become an expert. And you may have to fight for what you believe in. You may have to convince people to give you a shot. And you may have to trust yourself and believe in yourself. But if you can't advocate, oh my God, Ted, the greatest challenge, the greatest competition in your life is between the ears. Mm. There is no greater contest. And so if you're running around advocating for everybody else, but can you convince yourself to back off, to stop being so hard on you, to allow you to be flawed and accept yourself flaws and all? So not only am I teaching you to be an advocate for everyone, I'm asking you to be so grounded in the truth that you are what you think you are, that you can not just advocate for others, but you can advocate for yourself. You can. I teach assertiveness to aggressive people. Because assertiveness, you're pretty young, but you do remember assertiveness at one point seemed to be targeting women.
Right.
And then, people like me said, well, that's nice, but it needs to be something when we're trying to get someone who is passive to be more assertive and tell them the difference between passive and aggressive. Shouldn't we be trying to help people who are aggressive become more assertive? And so, that's what you teach people. When I am assertive, I'm grounded in my commitment to get my needs met. And I'm not going to crush you or step on you to make it happen. But I will share with you what's important to me, how you make me feel, what the outcome of that is, and ask you if that's how we're going to operate.
And as such an excellent kind of coach for others, how do you get people to walk to that? So, I think of all of my friends in education and any role of leadership working with people. And you touched on this a lot in your book that, like you said, the greatest battles between the ears, the narratives that we create in our own head that slow us down, that eliminate our willingness to take risks, that stop us from advocating for ourselves. Your book is filled with so many great quips and quotes that, like, I was going to create a Greg Harden poster series at our office of, like, just all the different things that you say. But going back to that, like, how do you, if I'm a teacher or I'm a leader, how do I help people take that first step towards, growing their strength mentally to be that advocate for themselves?
By teaching them some important lessons on self-assessment, self-evaluation. What we discover is if I am able to critique, not criticize, I've perfected criticizing myself, but I need to be able to look at what's working and what's not working. I have to keep it simple. I have to stop pretending this grandiose phenomenon as to why I don't like myself. No, some things are working and some things aren't. What's working in your attitudes and your behaviors? What's not working in the ways that you think, in the ways that you might act, and get them to become an expert by identifying what's working and where can I improve a tad bit. Then you have to have the audacity to not tell them how to do it.
Ooh.
So I'm going to have Ted, I'm going to have Charlie, instead of just telling them how to be assertive, I'm going to ask them to make a presentation to me. I'm going to ask Ted, I need you to identify and define the term assertiveness. Then I need you to give me 10, 15 minute, no more than 15-minute overview lecture, and talk to me as though I know nothing about the subject. You're to teach me assertiveness. Yeah, that opens up a door
Yeah.
where I've got no, they have to come back and explain to me what are the benefits of someone learning this.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, they have to buy into it and then try to sell it.
I love it. I love it because in the world of education, that's called reciprocal teaching. So we give you a topic and then you come back and teach us. And Greg, that's genius because like you said, I could sit with, my son or my daughter or a colleague all day long and give them the formula, but if they don't opt into it, that's an issue.
So what I was introduced to years ago, decades ago, was adult learning.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I told the fascinating piece is working with alcoholics and addicts. I walked into this hospital-based program. That's not what I wanted to do with my life, but it was the best job offer I had once I got out of school. So, holy do dumb, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I don't know that it's how hard it is. And so the first thing they gave me was a 13-week lecture series, a didactic lecture on this is alcohol, this is drugs.
Mm.
This is what they do. It was an hour and a half each session. And it was a 6-month program. And they had to come. And of course, they were there because their job said you're going, the judge said they're going, or their significant other says now or never. So they're not the happiest campers I've ever met. And then, oh my God, you'll understand this better than most. Not only was I the only brother in the room sometimes, I had 40 or 50 people who were 45 or 40 years old from the Southern Appalachian region of the United States.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
And me having a good time. Well, and after I learned the lecture, and I was giving the lecture every week for 13 weeks, hour and a half, just talking, I was getting bored listening to it. And then a year and a half goes by, and Ted, I noticed no one's ever come to see how I'm delivering the lecture. Well, the opportunity seemed to be knocking. So what I decided was to turn it into an adult learning activity. And instead of telling everyone what they needed to know, I would pose questions and give them an opportunity to educate each other. And all of a sudden, the peer group is telling them better than I could.
Right.
What impact negative consequences if I don't change my behavior. So all of a sudden, I got a 13-week lecture series. We're having a time of our lives. I got guys from the Southern Appalachian region of the United States bringing their drinking buddies in. They're not just bringing their kids in and their spouse in, they're bringing their buddies. You got to come hear this boy, he's crazy.
Yeah.
And we had the time of our lives learning about the impact, social, psychological, and physical impact of remaining stuck in an unhealthy space. But they were the educators, and I applauded them. I rewarded them. I had treats. I had trash and trinkets. If they get a great answer, I'd throw stuff at them. It was wild. And so after that audience, Nitschke, I wasn't too intimidated by anybody.
Yeah. Well, and in your book, you talked about that gentleman in the front row who was staring through your soul for that whole time, and you didn't know if you were going to make it with him or if you were making a difference. Share that story.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite stories. It changes your perspective on judging people, because one of the hardest things for all of us is to not judge anybody. And so for those of you who don't know, in that lecture series, a gentleman walked in and he was about 6'7", 6'8". He had to be over 300 pounds. He had reddish gray hair and a beard, and he was clearly from hillbilly heaven. This was a man mountain. And I had already, and I'm saying, I'm okay because I'm used to it. Hey, come on, sit down, have a good day. And the guy's looking at me like, why are you talking to me? And stares at me. Now, he didn't say, why are you talking to me? His body language said it. His body language made it clear that he couldn't stand me. I knew that he was going after every meeting. I knew he'd go back to his Klan meeting and they sit down and talk about this idiot over at the hospital. And I mean, I just knew he hated me. But that's all right. I'm that guy. I'm going to pull him in because I've already dealt with this type of personality and I'm going to pull him in. After about 8 weeks, I quit. It did not seem to be a good plan. And I did everything I could to engage him. I used humor. I used concrete, scientific. I did everything I could to get him. And he just looked at me like I was in his way. Over time, I moved on, but in my mind's eye, I had conjured up all these ideas about who he was, what he was all about, and how much he hated me. It was week 11. And he says, he walked in the class and he says, I need to talk to you after class. Awkward.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying I'm not lightweight. I grew up in the city and I was scared to death.
Right.
Because I didn't know what was going to come next. What is he going to tell me? How is he going to, how am I going to, indulge and endure? That class went a little too fast for me, Ted. At the end of the class, he walks up to me. He looks me in the eye. You're the best instructor I ever had in my life. I've learned so much from you in these last few weeks. As a matter of fact, he brought in a Psychology Today and was frustrated because it had so many tobacco and alcohol ads in it. And he wanted to discuss with me a strategy of how we were going to fix this.
The irony.
And it just meant, it was an amazing experience because it forced me into processing how fast and how easy it is to judge people on the way that they look, the way that they sound, the way that they walk. I had this guy all wrong. He was just a quiet guy who didn't make a lot of moves. He was studying everything and was listening to everything and processing at a high level. And I had made so many negative judgments about him, and it changed my whole life.
And what is so powerful for me about that, Greg, is that in every classroom in the United States, kindergarten through 12th grade, at the university level, there are those of us like you in that moment who created a narrative about this gentleman. Then what ends up happening, what I see all of the time, is people then look for the evidence for their narrative. Like, look, now he's got his arms crossed. He's got his teeth grit. He's squinting his eyes. This guy hates me. And teachers do that all the time with little young men and women. Now, where you flip it is lead with empathy instead of judgment. Seek to understand that person. Continually be merciful and forgive whatever story you've created about them until they have spoken their truth, which is why when you then took the class and made it into a reciprocal learning and you guys tell me and you talk to each other and you do that, that's the power of a real coach because it's guiding, not telling. And I know we all do that. I had this amazing grandmother, my grandma Knightsky, her name was Helen, and she taught my brothers and I one of the greatest lessons. And I don't have time to tell the story, and people who've seen my keynotes know this story, but at the end of a really difficult interaction we had with a homeless gentleman, because she was very upset with my brothers and I for making fun of him, she confronted us in front of the gentleman, and she told this gentleman, "Tell my boys your story." And this homeless gentleman then went on to tell us his story, guiding us to being understanding of why the man was in the position he was in.
We get back to my grandma's house. She sits us down at her kitchen table. She starts making dinner and she lights up a cigarette and she points it at me. I was probably 10 or 11 years old. And she says, "Teddy, we don't judge, we understand."
Ooh.
And your story in the book, it was one of these things. Like I think it was divine that this book showed up on my list of like things you need to read, Teddy, because Greg, that story just reinforced with me the passionate need for us to constantly remind everyone: do not fall into the trap of judgment, leading to those narratives, to then self-talk your way into being sympathetic and rising above whoever you think you're standing in front of, instead of at a level of understanding.
Wow. Thank you, sir. You nailed it. I mean, because that's what it boils down to. And because I was having all this thoughtful empathy and everything with this group, and then I'm on a roll. I mean, I think I'm being all these good things to this guy, and he still hates me. And I amplified it and magnified it to justify my perspective. And he reminded me of the lesson I had learned before. And hopefully you learn over and over again to not judge, to talk to people, to find out who they are. And so I'm glad you like that story, because that's one of my favorite stories of all time, because it just, you can feel the emotions when I start talking about it. You know that I was thoroughly intimidated by this cat, you know, and because I couldn't see a way out of a scenario if he was that guy.
Right. Well, and I think if you ever run into anyone who works with children will tell you, they may not admit it this way, but we get intimidated by kids. We get intimidated by their actions or what they say, how they carry themselves, what they do. And that could be a 5-year-old and that could be a 15-year-old.
It'd be a kid with special needs who you can't read.
Right.
Whose messages are unclear to you.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's
the single greatest, and longtime listeners have heard this a million times, but the single greatest STEM question I was ever taught when I get into a situation like that is to approach the person and ask them this: what do you need me to do different in order for us to be able to 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5?
That's
and
excellent.
Yeah, well, I see it throughout your whole book. So I want to go to page 3 of your book, because this stopped me in my tracks. I read your book, Greg, like a mindfulness text, because you have got 30 plus chapters. So I would read a chapter and then I would reflect, how could I apply this today in my support and coaching of others, is what I would ask myself.
Yes, sir.
And I found myself talking about you like you were, my neighbor. Like my buddy Greg was telling me that the other day.
So what are you on page 3? What are you looking at?
So on page 3, I when you introduced the first time that you met Tom Brady, and you say to Tom Brady, "If you don't believe in yourself, why should I believe in you?" Now, in hindsight, right? Wow. Just for me, like, wow. Like we all know who this man is now, the GOAT, all of these other things. But knowing now what you know, like the fact that you said that to this young man in your office and it sparks him to change. Tell me how you utilize that with him and others, because that was very profound to me, because I don't know even now that I'd have the courage to say that to someone I love.
Yeah, I understand. Peak performance training is very different from clinical therapy. So let's be real clear. Tom Brady wasn't in my office because he was in trouble. He wasn't in my office because he was depressed in the way that we understand a chemical imbalance and things like that. He was hurt and disappointed because he wasn't getting the love he expected after being recruited. And he wanted to be a quarterback, a starting quarterback. And so he's thinking about leaving. But he talks, and I swear to God, I'm not making this up, Ted. He ended up with acute appendicitis and was laid up in the hospital processing, and came out of the hospital and decided he didn't want to leave, but he needed to figure out what to do. He had seen what Desmond Howard and I had accomplished and how Desmond had given me. I mean, you got to understand, big love from Tom and Desmond, because if those two made me interesting to others. So he's watching what Desmond and I did. Desmond wins the Heisman. So he says, do you think we could just meet for a minute? I say, sure, kid. 19-year-old, I like you. I've always liked you. I've given you, I told you when I saw you, anytime you want to talk, come see me. He comes in. Now, he's looking for peak performance training. He's not looking for a therapist. So you have to shift. And you got to know your audience. So if he's in there for peak performance, I can take off some of the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to go to practice in 2 hours. We've got a season that'll be over in 6 weeks. I don't have time to give you 6 months of psychotherapy. So what are you here to work on? Well, I don't think the coaches like me. Well, you came here to be liked? No, sir. He said, well, I don't think the coaches believe in me. Well, Tom, why should they believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? You want me to believe in you and you don't believe in yourself? This doesn't seem to make sense to me. Help me understand that. And no one says that to anybody. No one talks to them like that. I'm saying, son, you ain't got time to sit around. You're sitting up here. You think the coach doesn't like you? How irrational is that?
Right.
That's not rational thinking. The coach doesn't dislike you. The coach is looking to get the best out of you. You can't focus on the coach's personality. What is the coach's objective? To get the best out of me. So if this coach was raised by another coach who turned out to be a colossal fill in the blank, and all he ever got from that coach was being cussed out and told that he was worthless, that's what your coach is going to do. If you have a coach that's going to praise you and lift you up and build you up, that's what that coach is going to do. However, what is the coach's objective? No matter how their approach is, your job is to drain them and get all you can from them. A totally different mindset than taking it personally. Tom, you can't take what they say and how they act personally. You got to decide that it motivates you and drives you, and they make you insane about being the best. But you have to believe that. You have to buy into what we're talking about. You have to reevaluate how you've been approaching this, because I can't help you pass a ball. I can't tell you anything about how to throw a ball. What I can tell you about is how to train yourself to give 100% of the time at everything you do. What I can tell you, football ain't about football. Football is a vehicle that you will use for self-expression. How you express yourself, how you are treating yourself, how you are spending your time, what you are projecting, that's who you are. Football is merely a tool. Now, we're going to get everything we can out of you. What are you going to get out of football? I say, son, this ain't going to last long.
Yeah. Yeah. Not for Tom Brady, apparently, who retired at 92 years old. Yeah.
So your job is to get everything you can from this sport. And the only way you can do that is to treat it like it's something you love. But I need you to love yourself more than you love football. Right now, this is how I talk. I apologize if it confuses anybody. I say, for you, son, football is an idol god.
Mm-hmm.
You worshiping football. You better rethink that. Because right now, if football isn't going well, you're negative, miserable, and depressed. You're sad. Your self-worth and self-esteem, Tom Brady, Desmond Howard, Michael Phelps, must not be based on performance. How you feel about you, you have to take that away from performance.
And Greg, like again, when I was reading your book, I would just replace the word football with leadership. I would replace the name Michael Phelps with, my friend Jean Marie. I would replace, because it's so applicable to everything. And you're one of the first people I've run into who, through the stories, make it directly relevant. Because again, if you want to be a champion, you have to champion yourself.
In the book, there are stories about people.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them happen to be MVPs of Super Bowls. Some of them have nothing to do with sports. Some of them are, I got a soccer player to die for, Michael Parks, who is now like one of the best business psychology gurus on the planet Earth. But he was struggling mightily because he was an amazing soccer player, and he was going to be the captain of the soccer team, and he was going to be the lead dog on the soccer team. And no, it didn't work out like that. And he was, talk about complaining. He was whining and complaining, and I'd let him go, and I let people do it for about 3 sessions.
Ooh.
Then they walk in, and I say, well, you got 15 minutes to whine and complain, and then we have to be solution focused. Okay. What are you going to do? Is the question. You've made it crystal clear that the coach is an idiot and he doesn't get it. He doesn't get you. It's not fair. I understand all of that. What are you going to do? That's all I want to know. That's all we can talk about for you get 15 minutes to whine and complain. And then, my friend, I need more from you. I need more from you. I need you to focus like a laser beam on what are you going to do to change the way that you're handling this, or to change your performance. So if you want to talk about performance, we can go there. The only way to cheat in sports that's not cheating is to be in better shape than everybody that stands across from you.
Right.
That's not cheating. If you're getting your butt handed to you on the front line on a football game for 3 quarters, you're amused because in the 4th quarter, you know what's going to happen. You know that their tongue is going to be hanging out, their hands are going to be on their knees, and you're going to be talking about, okay, let's see what you got now. The only way to cheat is to understand your fitness level has to be superior to theirs. Now, if you're talking about Tom Brady, you can't measure this and you can't measure this. He can't outrun you, he can't outlift you, he can't outjump you, but you can't catch him.
Yeah, heart and mind.
Because his mind is stronger than yours. His heart is bigger than yours. And he's trained his mind to compensate for the physical disadvantages.
That's so awesome. And what I like about what you did there, and I'm honestly, I'm kind of surprised, 3 sessions that you can come and complain or talk about the problems, because, I've always leaned towards, you can admire the problem or we can admire the solution. And how much time do you want to spend on the two? Because one's only going to get us to move forward. But there is some healing there, I think, for someone to be able to share what they perceive to be their problems.
But Ted, you told me in your opening, you said empathy.
Correct.
Was the critical piece to the puzzle. Listening is the critical piece to the puzzle. It's boring to me, but I'll never let you know it's boring because I've heard it 1,000,000 times. The point is, right now, it's your story, and I need you to tell me what's going on for you. And if you need to whine and complain and carry on, I'm going to listen and make sure that you see I'm listening, because when I switch on you, you're going to have to listen to me, because I proved I will listen to you even in the midst of your madness. I indulged wholeheartedly and listened intently. So when I say, would you consider looking at it from another angle? You'll say, well, you listen to me.
Yeah, that's very true. And there's an author named Kate Murphy who has a great quote that says, "The world is hurting for a lack of listening." And that just really reinforces that for me, Greg.
But I mean, think about your core. Your core principles tell me what to do.
Right.
Seek first to understand before you try to be understood. I mean, that's Stephen Covey.
Correct. All the habits, baby.
Come on.
So tell me a little bit about, one of the other things I really, really, really admire too is this quote, or not quote, but one of your sayings: control the controllables. And how you coach to just this idea of, you got to get people to learn that you can only work on what's within your sphere of influence. How do you support others with that mindset and get them to believe that they can actually control the controllables?
Well, let's look at the roots of it. I'm out of the master's program, and I foolishly go into working with alcoholics and addicts. And the first thing I learned from them is, understanding I have to understand the AA and the 12-step programs. I'm not recovering, but I better understand it if I'm going to work with this population. Ted, all over the walls, it says serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Think about what I just said. Serenity, courage, wisdom to control the controllables. I brainwashed myself into understanding that principle, that whole phraseology. It changed my whole outlook on life. I couldn't understand why they don't teach it in school, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking all over these walls everywhere. I talk about it, serenity prayer, but I had to interpret it a different way because I see the world differently. And so I would walk out of my house in the morning, and on the door, a serenity prayer would be sitting there. I'd have two things on the door. It was a serenity prayer, and the other one was learn to laugh at yourself, and you will always have something to smile about. Those are my two triggers for every day I walk out the room. So I don't know that control the controllables is that until I'm analyzing it later. Even after the book, I say, oh my God, it's the serenity prayer in a context that's radically different. And you can't have the atheists can't be mad at you. The agnostics can't be mad at you. And you're not forcing your religious orientation on anybody else. Control the controllable. I'm so busy trying to control other people. I'm so busy trying to control, things I can't control that I'm burning out. I'm worn out. And when I get to the things I can control, I'm so tired and spent. I can't even control those. So when we talk about what's working, what's not working, when we're talking about self-mastery, which is ultimately where I'm taking people, then we have to be so sophisticated that I can become in tune with seeing what's working, what can I control, and focus on under my influence. I have to be able to be crystal clear about how not to waste my time. I'm not going to let you waste my time. I can't even have conversations anymore about politics because people only want to talk about their extreme. And see, back in the day, you could be a Republican, I could be a Democrat, I could be a Republican, you could be a Democrat, and we could talk about the United States of America. And what we have to figure out. Now, this fantasy that extremes are going to work fascinate me and they entertain me. Because other than that, I'll go crazy.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So I
talk to each other. Yes.
So I love those lessons from there. So coaching just people, what are some of your great lessons that you could share with us, and even the similarities between working with alcoholics and athletes with, there has to be some hauntingly weird similarities between the self-talk, the mindsets, etc. What are some of your takeaways from that?
Well, let's think about it. Again, what we have to open up the door is talking about self-awareness. See, in alcohol and drug issues, you discover that not being honest with yourself is the key to keep you stuck. Lying to yourself, lying about yourself, lying about what's happening, lying about how much in control you are. So those are the things that, I don't care if we're talking about alcohol and drugs. We're talking about life. When I am not able to be honest with myself about what's working and what's not working, when I am not able to calm myself down when I need to, when I'm not in tune with and understanding how important self-discipline, self-control, self-motivation has to be something that you're reinforcing for any living creature that is a human being. Let me tell you something that covers a lot. You've been all over the world. Ted, I know you've traveled. I know you've seen some stuff.
I've been blessed.
You've been to zoos in New Zealand,
Yeah.
But understand this, you've seen creatures, you've seen National Geographic shows, you've seen all kinds of things that just fascinate you when you look at what has been created, whatever God you believe in has created. There's only one creature that has the ability to decide, I'm not going to be the same today as I was yesterday. As a human being. See, a dog gonna be a dog every day. Cow gonna be a cow. A lion's gonna be a lion every day. A human being can decide to change their mindset. They can change how they talk to themselves, how they treat other people, how they embrace life. Bruh, I don't care who we talking to. If you can teach people to see that there are no limits, all your limits are self-imposed.
That is
and
amazing.
the greatest obstacle in your life is you. If you become your own best friend, you will treat yourself differently. If you would treat yourself half as good as you treat everybody else, everything would change. So what we teach is people is to pursue self-mastery. I don't care if we're talking about athletes or engineers or CEOs. We're teaching them how to take control over what they can control, and that their happiness is not based on cash flow, title, trophies. Because we all know somebody that knows somebody who's got everything we think anyone would want. Mm-hmm. Fame, money, power, right? And they kill themselves. They got everything. Notoriety. It's all there. That's what we think we want. And if we had more, we'd be happy. No. So what we teach anyone that will listen is to, instead of telling people to be fearless, I love this. You be no fear. I thought that was a great campaign, a great marketing piece. No fear. I bought all the no fear gear. Right? But fearless, I could be wrong. I'm not, but I could be wrong. Most fearless people I've ever met were either drunk or mentally ill. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but to your point here, I mean, you can either overcome or be succumb, and you can wake up in the morning and decide what it's going to be.
You can decide.
You get to decide, and that's, Greg, again, that's so powerful for your text and your mindset. And God, I wish I would have met you 25 years ago and we could have hung out, because you're not that much older than me. But when you walk through your text, like, and I just want to build off of what you just said, because one of the quotes I wrote down here, and I actually made it a card, is it said, you wrote, "I've worked with many people who rely on negative self-talk to protect themselves from disappointment." And then you have this beautiful list of self-defeating attitudes and behaviors. And here are just a few. And your just a few has to be a list of like 25 things, from blaming others, acting inferior, making excuses, ignoring the truth, always feeling guilty, acting dumb, pushing others away. So walk me through how you coach people to strengthen that part of their mental perseverance, so that they can move away from self-talk and go to positive self-talk.
Yes, sir.
Be confident.
All right. So let me finish this one point. I'll segue right into it.
Yeah.
We were talking about fearless, and you'll hear people saying, well, it's nothing. Why are you afraid? Stop being afraid. I think you shouldn't say that to people. You should say to people, stop being afraid of being afraid.
Right.
Fear is part of life. It's part of being human. Courage is not the absence of fear. The word courage has no meaning unless we're talking about facing fear. So when we talk about identifying self-defeating attitudes and behaviors, the ways that we think, the ways that we might act, you give people an opportunity to do self-evaluation. You give them tools to do self-evaluation. Instead of saying you need to evaluate yourself, give me a formula. So you give them a list. And I made this great list. And by Gaffrey, Theodore, on the list of 25, 30 items, I marked 11.
Wow.
And I was a tad bit overwhelmed. And then I concluded, hey, it was good that I identified 11. I need to prioritize 3 and make them a target. And I could take on 3 things that I might want to consider evaluating and eliminating or diminishing its effect on my life. So when we talk about self-defeating, how do I set myself up? There's the world. We know the world. You got enemies, you got angst, you got, conflict and chaos all going on at the same time. But if the enemy within can't harm you, you got a chance. If you can conquer the enemy in your mind, you got a shot at the title. So you give people a list and tell them to identify everything they've worked on, everything they think they need to work on, everything that they already have mastered, mark it off. And then you tell them pick 3 to focus on for the next 6 months. And it's an assignment. You give people assignments because they love assignments. I don't know if I can do that. I didn't say you could do it. Just give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot.
It's so simple.
But it's not easy.
Correct.
Simple and easy are 2 different constructs. People get confused. You make it sound so easy, Mr. Harden. No, I make it sound simple.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he called Ryan Holiday and Marcus Aurelius. Duh. Ask the Daily Stoic. Yes, it's a simple formula.
Right. So when you are now, coaching and reflecting upon your impact on others, and when you were writing your book, what were some of your reflections on, just kind of core principles of moving yourself? So if there was the Greg Harden 5 steps to, securing your mental fitness, being the best version of yourself, staying sane,
Yes,
because what would they be? I mean, for me, I wrote some out. My number 1 for you was control the controllables.
Come on.
Be your best friend.
Yes.
Right. But what are you?
Practice. Self-love and self-acceptance. That's hard. Self-love and self-acceptance, that's a challenge. You've got to see it as a challenge, as a contest. You've got to see it as the master game. You love games. You can't get you off the video game. Here's a game for you: self-mastery, self-love, and self-acceptance. Stop looking outside of yourself for love. If you can't accept, if you don't love yourself, the love you give everybody else is suspect and questionable. But you're looking for them to love you so you can love. No, it doesn't work like that. So practice, train, and rehearse, giving 100% of the time at everything you do. And people get it and they say, oh, yeah, I love that. Yes. And I'm not talking about work. You already know how to give 100% at work. Some of you don't. But maybe some of you should give 100% at work. But I'm talking about work, play. I'm talking about surrendering. I'm talking about making 100% your norm, your default mode. I'm saying when you relax, you do it better than most. I'm competing with you, Ted, at everything, including relaxing and having a good time. I'm gonna improve my ability to love my significant other. And there's so much that we're trying to do. Okay, but since this is a program that may not last forever, I better tell you this. Practice, train, rehearse 100% of the time. When you came on, you said you're batting at about 60% right now. Okay. And I said, your 60% make a fool out of some folks 100%.
I love that.
But think about it. If you train your mind and your body to give 100% of the time, is that realistic? I can get 100 on the exam every now and then. I can get a perfect 10 and pose. And that's fun. The pursuit of perfection is fun. But to try to be perfect, that sets me up to be even sicker. But if my mindset, my default mode, all you modern young folks understand default mode. If my default mode is 100% of the time, my worst day is going to be better than the average person's best day. 85 on the exam is, what grade is that, Professor?
That's a solid B.
Solid
B.
And B is above what?
Well above average.
That's all we want. Bruh, I want my worst day to be above average. And you're only at 60% because God needed to get your attention about something and broke you down. Understand? And you're on your way back. Now, the final piece that we have to talk about is there are 3 levels of fitness. 3 levels of fitness. Everyone, even if you've never been in shape, you know somebody that knows somebody that's been in shown up shape, right? And if I came from another planet and I did not understand physical fitness, you would tell me endurance, how much weight you can lift, being able to run. You might even include flexibility. You might include being able to, push yourself. And until you say the word recovery, you don't understand fitness. You and Charlie and I could go out and run 100-yard dash, and Charlie could say, when's the next one? And in a minute and a half, he could run another 100-yard dash. You, because of what your current conditions, might take another month before you try it again. For me, it'd be another year and a half before I would consider that 100-yard dash, because my body and my recovery time is off physically. And what we want to learn to do is recover faster. So when I say the word recovery, it opens up my door to understanding what fitness is. So then, of course, I segue and say, well, then what's mental fitness? And because time is not my best friend, I'll give it to you straight. You will be tested There will be trials and tribulations. All of us will go through something. There are stories that people, your friends, the people that listen to your podcast, there are stories on that line that could make us all cry.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who have been hurt and disappointed, betrayed, brokenhearted, disappointed by people they loved and trusted. When I'm mentally fit, I'm going through the same thing everybody else is going through, but I recover faster. How fast can you recover? It doesn't mean you won't get hurt or disappointed, but how fast can you say, instead of going through it, you grow through it. Instead of being bitter, you become better. That's what we're talking about, mental fitness. And then I say it's 3 levels of fitness. That means there's physical fitness, mental fitness, and spiritual fitness. And for me, from my perspective, I have to process, what does that mean for me? Everyone needs to process that. There are going to be times when your body and your mind are broke down, worn out, have nothing left. You better have something to tap into. A belief system, faith, trust. I need you to believe in something other than just you and your ego.
Greg, it's so like, well, first of all, I don't know how, maybe somebody did. The way you talk, your speech, your cadence, your passion, like I imagine myself, if I had met you when you were young and I was a college athlete, me literally running through the door. Like I'd run through a wall for you. You're that type of and it's a spiritual coaching. You're touching into people's souls. And that's what I love about, again, the book, but then just this conversation with you. And when you talk about recovery, I've got 3 other things I want to touch on real quick, but tell us the story of when you get the knock at your door and, hey, can you coach my softball pitchers? Because that was something that I stepped back, because I've worked my whole life to recover as fast as possible. And many times as a result, it creates a little anxiety, because then I find myself a couple hours later thinking, was I heartless by just not, by moving forward there? And when you told the story about the softball coach and the pitchers and how much time they have, that really resonated with me. And my mom said this to me the other day, as a 52-and-a-half-year-old man, she throws in the half now again, like when I was in middle school. It was like darn, I still got a lot of runway left and I'm going to use that. So can you share that knock at the door and how you coach those softball pitchers?
Well, just think about pitchers, softball, hardball. Imagine that we talk about recovery time. They just hit a home run on me. I've got to shake it off so fast. I got to be so comfortable in the skin I'm in that not only do I shake it off, I bounce back. I ground myself. I train my mind to let it go. Ted, you have to take it to this level. When we're talking about high performance individuals, and we're not just talking about athletes, but you've got to let go that 3-point shot you just made, that home run you just hit, that touchdown you just made, that $2 million contract deal you just closed. That's history. Enjoy it for a brief moment in time. Make sure you enjoy it better than everybody and get over it.
Yeah.
Get over it and get back in the saddle and keep riding. So what you have to do when we're talking about the softball pitcher, you know that they're going through it, because it's not easy. And all it was one pitch, and that got away from me when we needed it most. I lost the game. We have to teach people to let the past be exactly what it is. PAST, previous action somewhere in time.
So good. It's like when I read that, I heard PYT in my head, by the way. I was singing Michael Jackson. PAST. Sorry. I'm sure Charlie's rolling his eyes.
But think about it, man. I had this male pitcher who was a superior athlete, and he was a neurotic mess when I got him. and it was hard. And I couldn't. I was struggling. See, let's make sure you understand. Is not when people talk to me now, they think it's always easy for me. No, I'm struggling. I can't figure out how to get through to him. He walks into my office, and that story's in the book too. And he's got on a cap with camouflage all over it, and it looks like he's a hunter. And I said, "Boy, you got the camouflage cap on? You a hunter?" "Yes, sir." I say, "No, seriously, are you a hunter?" "Yes, sir. I hunt with my dad." "Tell me about hunting." And he started telling me about hunting. And I say, "Wow, we've talked about a lot, but I'm glad you're sharing that with me because that story just makes me think of something." I say, "Tell me about buck fever." "You know buck fever?" I said, "I don't know what I need to know about it. Why don't you school me and tell me about buck fever?" The boy tells me the story of the first time it's his turn to take the shot. And he tells me in detail, and you can see he almost started sweating talking about it as the memories took over his whole body. And he started talking about that moment when he couldn't take the shot, and his father told him to breathe, to calm yourself down and take the shot. And he had to calm himself down, and he took that shot, the first shot he's ever on the buck. That it was. So I said, "Wow. You know what that reminds me of? Standing on the mound, looking at the signals coming from the catcher. and instead of freaking out, you have to calm yourself down. You have to go back to what you learned when you were 12 years old."
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how I got on that, but
Well, that goes back to that whole pitch quick, move fast fear. And Greg, in that chapter of the book, that's chapter 25, Fear, Courage, and Buck Fever. And like I said, I read your book like a daily reflection exercise. I wrote in the margin over here, "We all struggle with fear, and I love this strategy." And that's the buck fever piece of, what are some of your fears? And then honestly look at your own life and fill in the blanks with the answers, and then work to overcome them. And like you've pointed out, what's going well? What do I need to change? Do different.
and what we discover is that fear is predictable, therefore manageable. I had a horrible case of I had panic attacks getting on a plane. Going to the airport, I started having panic attacks. And it was fascinating because I'm so doofus, I'm studying it and saying, "Oh, that's what they meant. That's what a panic attack is."
This is what this feels like.
I was fascinated while I was freaking out. But because the only way I could control it was to examine it, to study, to make it reveal itself for what it really was. But I tell you, man, I had to practice what I preach. And so I had to really center myself and do a reality grounding as to what was really happening. And it was control issues, and it was all, And so what we learn and what we have to do is continue to push ourselves to understand who we really are, to really become an expert, to really become your own best friend, and let nothing stand in the way of that relationship.
It's the best. So last thing on the book, and then I've got a couple of questions to close our relationship out with each other and the listeners. As educators, one of the things I think that a lot of people fail to recognize is that, when you just brought up the panic attack, I'm going to say half, if not 2/3 of the people listening have had that experience where your heart feels like it's trying to escape your body in that panic attack. And you have this awesome you named something, psychic vampires. Drag them out into the healing light. Close out our conversation with what is a psychic vampire?
Now, let's think about it. Negative self-talk, your history. We really are experts on ourselves already, but we sometimes overrule all the positives and focus on the negative. Because one of the worst things about who we are is like, if anyone knows our secrets, it's us. Our shame, our guilt, the remorse. Every time I have no regrets, I have regrets. How I've treated myself and how I've treated other people. I wish I could take it back. But when we're talking about vampires, the things that the guilt and shame that we have, we'll have psychic vampires where somebody did something to us and we're still beating they're still in our hearts and in our heads. And they're idiots and they're gone and they're out. But they are haunting us. And those are the psychic vampires. Something that somebody did to you when you were a child or adolescent, someone who took advantage of you or abused you mentally, physically, sexually. We don't know, but they are still strangling and suppressing you. And you've got to liberate yourself. And the only way to liberate yourself is to sometimes ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in order to get rid of those, to drag them out into the light, I'm not going to do it without somebody guiding me, helping me, supporting me, because it's terrifying. And now, you ready for this? The stronger, the bigger, the better you get. Guess what your psychic vampires are doing while you're growing? They're in the closet, lifting weights, training, waiting for you to crack that door. Because they know at some point you're going to have a moment where you look at them and they're going to be stronger than they were, because now they got to get ready because you're changing and growing and evolving. But if you drag them out into the light, you sap them of their power. You destroy them. So sometimes I've got to be at least willing to understand I can't do it by myself. So what I teach people, especially I love teaching executives to ask for help. I love teaching executives to use the resources that they're paying for everyone else. Sometimes I have to convince an executive, how much are you being paid for this assignment that you have here? Oh, a few $1 million. Okay. And do you use consultants? Of course I do. Well, if we're paying you that much money, why do you need a consultant? Well, I can't see everything. Counselors are consultants. Hire them. If you don't like them, fire them and get another. Stop
100%.
talking about, I don't need this and I don't need that. You don't know what you need. Interview. Identify people who are capable of helping you and give them a shot. If it doesn't fit, don't force it, but get another one. Never stop asking for help. I'm a helper and I hate asking for help. Am I alone? So I hope this has been a good use of your time, Ted.
My friend, it is excellent. So I have two more quick questions for you. First is, when was the time you knew you mattered?
Ooh, wow, that's deep. Wow. When I surrendered my ego and began to see God as a creator, and when I started seeing Martin Luther King and Jesus as revolutionaries, I knew I had an awakening, because they were not my favorite boys. I ain't gonna lie to you. Jesus was suspect and Martin Luther King was totally suspect back in the day. And once I was able to get past my own ethnocentric nonsense, my own stereotypes, my own macho insanity and excessive male masculinity. And I could see differently the value of someone that giving everything. I knew that if I became a better servant leader, my life would matter.
I love it. Putting others first. What was the best advice you've ever been given?
You can teach a man, you can give a man a fish, feed him for a day. You can teach a man to fish and feed him for the rest of his life.
Greg, I mean, the ironies here of our lives, I say that all the time in my life with people like, oh, thank you for the fish, but teach me how you did that. Show me how to do that. Almost in a sinfully prideful manner of like, I don't want to have to depend on you. I want to know this. I want to grow. I want to be there for others. Okay. Last one on this series. What's the best advice you've ever given?
I think it really boils down to stop being afraid of being afraid. I mean, fear is the enemy. Fear and self-doubt is the greatest enemy you'll ever face in this life, Ted. Fear and self-doubt is the enemy. So if you are no longer afraid of fear, that's a game changer. So
true, friend. So true. And in your book, like I almost ripped the page circling that. All right. So one more thing. Let's have some fun. So, Greg, one of the things that I always do when I work with teams is I talk about the intentionality of changing the direction of your own day. And sometimes you need to have tools to do that. And, having been a soccer player and a coach and a teacher, one of my favorite things to do is to have people describe for me what their 180 song is. So if I'm having a bad moment and I'm headed in one direction and I'm trapped, I'm very intentional about music in my life. So there are certain songs, if I hear or if I play, it will lift my spirit. It will bring me someplace different. It will change the direction of my day.
Man in the Mirror.
Really? Tell me why.
I mean, think about it. I don't care. I ain't talking about the artist. I'm talking about the lyrics. The song is, I'm talking about the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. No message could have been any clearer. If you want the world to be a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Dang!
Yeah.
How can you not be inspired by that?
Correct. And there's only one person you can't lie to, and that's the man in the mirror. Greg, this has been so much fun for me personally and professionally. And one of the things that we define on the podcast is that a leader is anyone who has influence over another person. And you easily just influence me and thousands of people like you do often with a few things. One, your courageous ability to confront kind of common sense, your contagious enthusiasm. I mean, honestly, if I lived closer to you, I would drive over right now with whatever your beverage is and just hang out and swap stories about life and leadership and just listen to you. And lastly, I just want to share with you my greatest lesson from your book, which is this. And I am a thirsty reader. I read a lot, and I am constantly reading about life, leadership, and coaching. And my biggest walkaway from your book was be coachable. Be coachable. And you illustrated today that in everything that you said, and my hope for the teachers and the principals and the superintendents and the business people who listen to the Smart Thinking podcast is that they take away one thing which you said, which was get the help, put your pride in your pocket and be coachable. So my friend, this has been an honor. I cut you off there, but this has been an honor, and I could not be more grateful for our time today.
Let's tell people the difference between Tom Brady, Desmond Howard, Charles Woodson, Michael Phelps, Ted Nitsky.
Correct.
I've been practicing. Let's think about it. They're hungrier than most. but they're humble.
Mm.
Hungry and humble equals coachable. Ted's humility. I mean, who knows that Ted is like that guy, mayor of his hometown? Come on, man. He's a shaker and a mover, but his passion is helping people. His passion is being humble and coachable. That's why he is so successful. So I appreciate this time and opportunity to meet you, to chat with you, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Oh, Greg, this was wonderful. So thank you for joining us. So let's do some smart thinking. Can you love yourself more than anything? Describe what it would take for you to become your own best friend. And last, list the people in your life who could use a little bit of Greg to help motivate them through whatever it is that they're facing. That's it. That's the Smart Thinking Podcast. Hey, as always, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and please make sure to rate and share this with everyone who needs to hear it. Also, thank you to the Well Pennies for their great music and always supporting the Smart Thinking Podcast with their optimistic, upbeat, and engaging sounds. Remember to follow them on whatever musical platform that you are on, as well as go on to the website for Golden Bear Studios and see all of the other great artists that they are producing, directing, and supporting. As we close out this episode, I just wanted to share with you why I loved this conversation so much. I loved it because my son Charlie got to participate and was on the Zoom call right along with me and Greg as we were having this great conversation. And there were two things that I wanted to share. The first is what he said to Greg.
Really insightful. So it was great, especially from someone who struggled with confidence, stuff like that, like as an athlete, things like that. So yeah, it was awesome. Great insight. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
The second thing is, when it was all over, I gave him a couple of hours to reflect, and then I texted him. I said, hey, Charlie, what were your takeaways from that conversation I had with Greg Harden? And Charlie texted me back, I own my own excellence. And I loved it. And I hope that in this conversation with Greg and myself, that you heard some different things and different takeaways to support you in your leadership, to support you in your life, to support you in both your confidence and willingness to take the steps necessary to be who you want to be. I mean, think back to that conversation that he had with Tom Brady. If you don't have confidence in yourself, why should I have confidence in you? That man went on to be one of the greatest athletes of all time in the history of the United States. And when he was at a crossroads, he was asked a simple coaching question. Why should I have confidence in you? So I hope as you listen to this conversation with Greg that you will walk away and you will inspire yourself to be your best friend, but then most importantly, that you will inspire others to be the best version of themselves by the courage it takes to lead other people to that crossroads and then through it. All right, we're going to end here with another song by Andrew Hoyt, a Golden Bear Studios artist and a great teacher. It's called You've Got a Friend in Me, and I think you know why we're playing it.
You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old past said. Boy, you've got a friend in me. And you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Oh, you got troubles, I got them too. There isn't anything that I wouldn't do for you. If we stick together, we can see it through. Because you've got a friend in me. Some other folks might be a bit smarter than I am, bigger and stronger too, maybe, but none of them will ever love you the way I do. It's me and you, boy, and as as the years go by, our friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny, because you've got a friend in me. Yes, you do. Some other folks might be a bit smarter than I am, bigger and stronger too. Well, maybe. But none of them will ever love you the way I do. It's me and you, boy. And as the years go by, our friendship will never die. No, no. You're gonna see it's our destiny, because you got a friend in me. Oh yeah, hey, you got a friend in me. Da 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 da. Yeah, yeah.
Well, Ted, and let me tell you why I'm so honored and pleased. I'm in a stage in life where I only work with people I want to. And, I get invited to do a lot of different things. So when you invited me and I read your beautiful note, I immediately went to your podcast and said, Ted! I was so impressed with not just your content, your delivery, your technique is superior. And I was
thank you.
thrilled to have an opportunity to talk to someone with your skill set and know that we are kindred spirits.